What do Repo Man, The Scavenger Hunt, The Room, and The Evil Dead 2 have in common? They all have, they all have, they are all, I wish I could speak tonight. They are all cult classic movies. Join us as we discuss our favorite cult classics on Screen Time with Doug and Kyle.
Hello. How's everyone doing tonight? Welcome back to an episode of Screen Time. I am your host, Kyle, and this is Doug. Doug, how are you tonight?
Doing very well, Kyle. Very excited about this episode. It's going to be exciting, and we got some new stuff coming up, which I'm also excited about. But I'm very excited about this episode. I actually
Yes.
did a little research, and the research was so difficult. I actually had to watch a few movies that I've either seen or haven't seen before, and such tough research that I had to do. So, but yes, very excited about this episode.
Yeah, no, so pumped. Just I feel like we have a lot on our plate to talk about, and I decided actually to go through a couple different genres. Like I kind of went from movies to shows to even actually a single game. Hopefully, I won't spend too much time on the game because I love video games. But either way, I think you guys will have a good time with tonight's episode. We got a lot of really good, yeah, just good material. So
Absolutely. Very much looking forward to this episode.
definitely,
And so we should bring up our sponsors. Why not? Why not bring up our sponsors right now? So our sponsors for tonight's episode is Zyman Organizing and Wes Woodson. We thank them very much for continuing to be our sponsors for this podcast and for these episodes that we put on. And we will have descriptions we will have their links in the descriptions. Wow, I watched too many movies today or something. I don't know what we're. We'll have links in the description so you guys can click on them and check them out. So yeah, so that's our sponsors, Kyle.
cool. Yeah. So, the main topic we were going to talk about tonight was cult classics. So, I'm sure you guys have heard that term being used in media across like movies, video games, TV shows. So we were kind of just going to go over um, the definition of what a cult classic is, and give you guys some examples of what we look at as cult classics and some of our favorites. So yeah, I was gonna ask you, Doug. Yeah, what would you consider what would you consider the definition of a cult classic?
I actually looked it up. I had
Oh,
time
nice.
in between
Cheater.
movies. Yeah, I know I'm cheating. I'm sorry. But yeah, I actually looked up what a cult classic would be. I never even thought I would find it. So, but there's always Google out there. There's always all kinds of other places that you can try to find information. If you really want to, you can go to the library and look up the encyclopedia. But I don't think you're going to go that far. But a cult classic is basically related to movies. Sometimes it's related to other things, but when you talk about a cult classic, it basically talks about the movie genre in itself, and it is basically it's kind of a popular movie that you might go and see, and it's fashionable and it's popular, but it only kind of relates to one group of people or one section of society. Um, it's pretty unpopular in the mainstream. So it's
Mhm.
not like everybody would like the movies that we're going to be talking about. Um, some of them to some people would be strange and weird and what's you would have probably have your mouth open going, "What is going on here?
Like, they
What
filmed
is
this? What?
happening?" Yeah, yeah, what is happening? But they're typically some of these movies are typically unbelievably revolutionary. And they're
Mhm,
revolutionary because of the fact that not everybody watches them, not everybody likes them, and you may be watching something that you like, and just like we talked about on our last episode, sometimes these are movies you see all the same TV shows, and sometimes you see the same movies in the mainstream movies, and you like those too. But every once in a while, when you had a hard day or you had whatever, you just want to sit down and watch something weird and crazy. These are the movies that we're talking about. This
yeah.
is, but that's my definition of what it would be. What would you uh add to that or deviate from that definition or have another definition?
Honestly, no, you summed up really well. I think that's perfect.
Sorry, I did look it up.
No, no,
I
that's
did look
fine,
it up.
that's
I
fine.
cheated slightly, but I did add some of my own stuff to it. But I just that's kind of how I feel. I guess that's more my opinion. That's
Yeah.
how I feel about this. Is that these movies I don't necessarily watch every day, but every once in a while to get away from the mainstream, you crack a beer open and you're like, "Oh, I want to watch this movie," and we'll talk about some of them in a few minutes, but
Mhm.
I just watch this movie because I just want something different today. That's kind of what it
Yeah.
is.
No, I totally agree. Like I'm not I tend to go for movies that are really off the beaten path. Like, obviously I've seen like a lot of the classics like Godfather or Forrest Gump and stuff like that. But I really just some of my favorite movies are like cult classic. Like I personally just can't stop watching them. Like,
Well,
I
that
just
totally makes sense. No, it totally makes sense, and again, you sometimes wanna get away from the mainstream stuff.
Mhm.
You're so sick of it, and some of the big, TV stations, they always show some of the mainstream movies, but they don't and some of them, every once in a while, you may see one on what we call a mainstream. I'm using quote fingers, I hate that, but mainstream TV stations will have some of this other stuff on it too. So sometimes you'll find it, but sometimes if you got the DVD, you might as well, or the Blu-ray, just put it in or watch it on. Sometimes they're on streamers, and most of the time they're on something. Um, I watched a movie this afternoon. It just happened to be on Prime Video. So it's one of those things where you have to kind of go with the flow with some of that stuff. If you have the DVD or
Yeah.
the Blu-ray, throw it in there and watch it. But yeah, that's kind of where it comes down to.
Oh yeah, of course. Some of them you can only find actually on DVD or Blu-ray or
I know,
even
really. Yes.
VHS.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Some of them are so out of the mainstream that you really need to search or find somebody that has it, or um I dare say somebody who has a pirated copy. That used to be something that people did a long time ago, but go to the movie theater and tape, and have your copy of it. I don't suggest anybody do that because that's way against the law. So I would not do that. But again,
Yeah.
people did it a long time ago just to get that copy of that crazy movie that nobody else was going to see or watch.
Yeah, no, totally. And yeah, so how about we just go into some of our, our favorite, just examples of cult classics. I was gonna start with you actually. What were some of the ones that really spoke to you?
Yeah, so the one I just actually watched just very recently, a few nights ago, was a 1979 um, a movie called The Scavenger Hunt. Now, this this was this was a great concept, and The Scavenger Hunt it's had all these stars in it. Roddy McDowell and Dirk Benedict and Willie Ames. All these Meatloaf was in it too. Vincent Price, Arnold Schwarzenegger was in it, unbelievably. So it had all these stars in it, and it was only made for $7 million. Unbelievably, that's all they spent on this movie, and I don't understand with all these stars of that era. I
Gee,
don't
$7
understand
million?
how
Even back
seven
then, that's
million
like nothing.
dollars was the budget. That's it.
Wow.
So all these stars probably got $2.50. I don't know how that happened. But the director was Michael Schultz, and it's basically about a guy named an old, kind of an older gentleman played by Vincent Price. Called his name was called unbelievable. See if you can figure out from his name where they got it from. It's his name is Old Milton Parker. So he is a not a video game maker. He's like a board game maker, and he makes board games, and he's rich. And he passes away, and in his will, all these people that were either related to him, which was part of his family, or in some way, some other shape or form, other people. He had some servants, he had a cook, he had James Coco actually played the cook. He had a limo driver, um, played by Cleavon Little. He had, I mean, he had basically the Roddy McDowell actually played his butler. So it's so all these people. So what the whole deal was is that there was $200 million that these people could get, but what they had to do is they had to go on a scavenger hunt and get teams together, go on a scavenger hunt, and there were items that you had to get, and I'll tell you some of those items in a second. So there were items that you had to get, and then you had to bring them back to the estate, and each group had a corral that you had to put all the items in. And then there was an accountant who was, basically there would each item had a point value, and he was adding up all the points, and you had to be at a certain point level um to be able to get or win the $200 million. I'm not going to tell you what happens at the end. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's kind of a kind of a cool movie.
Okay.
Um, and it actually, unbelievably, was nominated. I don't believe this, and I laughed a lot when I saw this. It was actually nominated for a Stinker Award.
A Stinker Award?
I'm
I
not even sure what that
thought this was
is.
the Razzies.
But
That was
that's what it says. It was honored by Richard Mazer, is one of the actors from that era, and he actually played the grandson of this particular gentleman, Milton Parker. Where do you think they got this from? I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you in a minute. I'll tell
push
you in
me
a
out.
minute because that's my question for the that's my question for the listeners out there too, or the watchers out there too, is that Milton Parker. There's something about that name that kind of rings a bell. Anyway, so they got this nominated for the Stinker Award because Richard Mazur's character horrible, horrible. His character's horrible. It's just terrible. It's so stupid. It's laughable. That I mean, it's really you start to get in it. It's really long movie. I think it's over an hour and a half.
Wow.
So yeah, it's long. It's
I
pretty
mean, not
long. It's
terribly
close to I
long,
think it's
like
close to 2 hours.
average.
Yeah, it's close to 2 hours.
Okay.
But it's worth at least seeing it once because it is so stupid. It's funny. Let's put it this way. Let me tell you some of the items that they had to get. Some of the
Mhm.
items were they had to get a toilet. Okay, so you can just imagine what what that means. So they had to get a
No.
toilet. They had to get I believe they had to get. Let's see, what else did they have to get? Oh, they had to get an ostrich.
Okay.
An ostrich. Okay, so this whole thing, the whole movie takes place in San Diego. So you see them actually go to the San Diego Zoo. So that should give you a couple hints.
Mhm.
Ostrich, a kayak.
Okay.
They had to get a cash register, which is a very very funny scene. Um, so they had to get a cash register, was just incredibly funny. So again, I am going to recommend that people. I know it's on YouTube. I know that I think the full movie's on YouTube also. Thank you, YouTube.
Yep.
I think the full movie's on YouTube, but you should be able to find this. I believe it's also on Prime Video. So you should be able to find this movie.
Nice.
I would recommend this. Again, the cast from at least that era. Let's see, one, two, three. It's got to be about 15 people. Stephen First is in it. Stephen First was in Animal House.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, he played Flounder, I think, in Animal House. Meatloaf is in it. Arnold Schwarzenegger makes a cameo in it. Unbelievable. Scatman Crothers is in it, and that he's from The Shining and some other movies.
Oh my god.
Cloris Leachman is in it. Um, Ruth Gordon, who was an older actress, but she is funny as hell.
Mhm.
She's also in it too. Richard Mulligan is in it. Tony Randall, Willie Ames is from Eight Is Enough from a long time ago, and some of the older, some of the '80s TV shows. Um, just an unbelievable cast. I'm still trying to figure out how they got $7 million to all these people, but it's
Yeah.
just the cast is from the era. So it's from 1979, late 70s, early 80s. And again, it's one of those movies where if you want something stupid and just laugh at the stupidity, it's a perfect movie. Kyle, tell me about your first movie that you're going to talk about tonight.
So I'm gonna switch a little bit more into horror, but
You love that horror genre.
I do. I can't stop talking about horror movies and
It's all good.
apparently Chris Reeve Superman movies as well. So any of those two, areas of films, then I'll definitely, I can probably make like 10 different episodes about all of that. But um,
As the term classic has its positioning pretty much in your favor, so
yep.
it makes sense.
So this movie, actually, I should say movie series, but I'm gonna hone in on one of them. And I want to talk about the Evil Dead series. Now, those are directed by Sam Raimi, and the story about how that series came to be is just really fascinating because it literally is a group of guys who are just like they're just buddies. They just went out in the woods. They went to a cabin and they just were like, "Hey, let's just make a horror movie." And that's pretty much what it came down to. And yeah, it's wild. And they're all like good friends even to this day. Sam Raimi's brother is even pretty much in all of his movies. Um, so it's just really, I just love that. I love that it's just a bunch of guys who love filmmaking, and they just, they churned out the first Evil Dead, and they used it was definitely the most low budget out of all of them. You could clearly tell. No, you didn't know a single person in that movie. It was very much like an indie movie, but it just really stuck with the audiences to the point that there were just, there were calls for sequels, and it just ended up turning into this really kind of famous cult trilogy, with followed by Evil Dead 2 and then Army of Darkness. And then to the point of Sam Raimi just kind of became this ultra superstar director. He ended up doing like the Spider-Man movies and the most recent Doctor Strange, to name a few. Um, and Bruce Campbell is, he's widely recognized as one of the greatest B movie actors of all time. And that really started there with that series as, Ash Williams. And it's just such an iconic series. And it even turned into like a TV show that, he came back for a 3-season TV series on Stars, just called Ash versus the Evil Dead, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah.
cool.
It even came to the point where they actually have 2 remakes now. There's one that came out in 2013, and there's actually a new one that's going to come out in theaters very soon. So it's a series I think that's really resonated with people. sure, it's not like a Avatar or Titanic size hit or anything like that, but it's
Mm.
really registered with a lot of people. And I just love, especially, I think my favorite out of the whole series is probably has to be like the second movie. I love the second Evil Dead. Like it is great. It's classic. It's got
Oh, wow.
some of the best one-liners, and it's kind of a I like it because it's kind of it's a horror comedy. It's one of the originals kind of that type, or at least like one of the movies that really perfected, I feel like, that genre. It's just great. Like it's just, Ash Williams, he's back in the cabin again, following the events of the first movie. Sorry, spoiler alert. And it's just
That's all right.
I love it. Like and it's just a great showcase for like really really fantastically like cheesy but fun horror effects, like and you could see like it's a movie that just went balls to the wall. Like they just pulled out all the stops. Like it just embraced what it is. Like and I love it. It's just one of my all-time favorite, just cult classic. Like it really, to me, defines what a cult classic horror movie is, especially. So it's like the godfather of that. I'd even
Oh, that is fantastic.
right.
Wow.
It's great. It's great. It's such a
Oh, man.
yeah. I highly recommend you guys watch this movie. It is great. It's just like, I mean, yeah, it's not for the squeamish. I will say,
Yeah, especially if you like that kind of situation, like that stuff, that stuff shouldn't be really squeamish to people because
yeah,
it's funny squeamish. It's not like scary squeamish. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that looks awesome.
Oh, it's great. Highly recommend it. Yeah. So yeah, what about? Well, do you have another one that you really like
Yeah,
to talk about?
yeah, absolutely. We could talk about so many of them,
Hmm.
but Kyle and I decided to pick a couple just so we could kind of get it out there about cult classics and how important cult classics are to going and seeing, and maybe some of our favorites. One of the other ones that I did see is something called Repo Man. Repo Man was it stars Emilio Estevez and some of his early, very very early work, um, and Harry Dean Stanton, who was not originally picked for this, but eventually got the part. So it's basically it was the budget was $1.5 million to make this film. It is Alex Cox who is the director, and he's a
I've
British
never heard of him.
filmmaker. Yeah, he's a British filmmaker that does has done a lot of things. Now
Okay.
this unbelievable. This is kind of this has a glowing car in it. It basically is a guy who is Emilio Estevez's character is a guy who plays somebody who is really likes the slam dancing. And yeah, see, this is a part, the slam dancing and that kind of music. And then Harry Dean Stanton is a guy who recruits him to start repoing cars. And there's this 1964 Chevy Malibu, which is the most important thing out of this whole kind of situation. And you see the guy here that's not Harry Dean Stanton, but there's a guy here who actually, oh, there's the glowing car. There we go.
Nice.
And so Harry Dean Stanton teaches him how to repo cars. Now, this particular Chevy Malibu from 1964 has something really strange in the trunk. And it is, yeah, there it is. It is it is very, very strange. It's kind of got this alien vibe to it.
Hmm,
And
okay.
yeah, like anybody that looks in a trunk automatically gets dissolved and stuff. So it's kind of
Ooh,
interesting. So it's got this, yeah, it's got
ooh,
this little
sci-fi.
alien. Yeah, yeah, it's got a little sci-fi, a little alien, a little kind of um I don't think it's more of a horror film as much as I guess it could be. It could be. It's more of a sci-fi, I think, more of a sci-fi film.
Okay.
It's actually you'll be very interested in this. and I know you are because and because I did some research on this movie in itself. Alex Cox, actually, before he wrote the screenplay for the film, this is actually based off of a comic book. See, I knew your eyes would light up. So
I
it's
know, yeah.
based on it's based on a
Yeah.
comic book that he wrote, and the comic book is actually really raw, and it's
Hmm.
based on this concept of kind of finding a car and the car is like possessed, and it's got a little Stephen King kind of sci-fi little action. It's not Christine.
Yeah.
It's totally different. It's a totally different movie.
Yeah.
I think that's more of a horror film than sci-fi, but this is more on the
Yeah, Stephen
sci-fi
King.
kind of thing. Um, so the comic book predated the movie,
Hmm.
and the comic book kind of looks like if you it's really really raw. I saw a picture of the comic book. The comic book is really super raw, and it actually, it's not like stick figure raw, but it kind of
Mhm.
looks like, some of the old Ren and Stimpies, or if you ever look at, the characters are like, they're not grotesque. They just don't really look like humans. They're kind of based on humans, but they're really not. It's really very raw.
Okay.
And even more interesting, even more interesting is the fact that the person who backed this film, because this film was not going to be made, because Alex Cox, being a British filmmaker, tried to get into, said, "Hey, I got a screenplay." He sent it into all the major places, um, major production companies, got rejected everywhere.
Hmm.
And as soon as this particular star, I could say star, I guess, saw the screenplay, he said, "I'm backing it. I'm
Oh,
backing
wow.
it. I will bring it. I will personally bring it to." um I'm just trying to figure out which company it was. I will
Mhm.
bring it to the movie company, and I will back it, and they're friends of mine, and they'll make it. So the person I'm talking about is Michael Neesmith from the Monkees.
Oh, no way. Really?
Yes, 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 absolutely, and he's actually backed a couple other movies too. I'm
That's
not sure
cool.
if it was recent. Yes, he was the one who brought Repo Man to the big screen. Yeah, I
That's
know,
awesome.
it's incredible. It's just it's wild. It's really, really wild. I would suggest watching this movie if you are a Emilio Estevez fan, if you are a Sheen Estevez fan at all of any of the movies that Emilio has done, that Martin has done, that Charlie has done. This is definitely one of the early movies for Emilio. It's really good. It's really good, but it gets a little wild. It gets a little crazy at times.
Yeah.
It is definitely one of those things where you gotta grab a beer, grab even if you don't grab beer, grab your favorite milkshake, and just and eat some cookies and watch this movie because it's pretty wild, and it's got a great cast in it. Actually, the two people that were originally cast for Emilio's part and Harry's part are actually in the movie.
Oh, perfect.
They don't, yeah, they actually
Wow.
are actually in the movie. The people that were hired to do that first, they started to do the movie, and they were like, "Wait a minute, I don't know if these guys are really good for these parts."
Yeah.
So they decided to give them other parts and then bring Emilio in and bring Harry Dean Stanton in, um, to really kind of knock off that the movie itself made it so much better. But yes, I would
Cool.
absolutely recommend to watch this movie if you haven't watched it. And what's your next one?
So the next one, I actually might have to turn the sound on for this one because you guys not only have to see it, but you have to hear and see it to believe it because it is a movie that's just unlike anything you've ever seen. It's a movie basically. It's called The Room. I've seen it several times, especially in theaters. It's great. I love it. It's oh my god.
I
Um,
want to see this. I will tell you, Kyle. Sorry to interrupt, but I will tell you, I have seen like bits and parts of this movie because I'm trying to find it. So I've seen bits and parts. This movie looks absolutely 100% crazy. Absolutely crazy. I so want to see this movie so badly. I just haven't had a chance to see it. I've just seen like clips. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but this is Kyle. You gotta go with this. This is
it's
great.
unbelievable. It's just like so I'll give you a quick summary and then I'll show you the trailer because the trailer is just magical on its own. It's
Perfect.
literally just about this guy who's played by Tommy Wiseau. Now, mind you, Tommy Wiseau not only did he direct the movie, but he wrote, produced, and starred in the movie as well. So
Oh
this
wow.
guy, to his credit, he did a lot of legwork for this movie. This really was his passion project, and I feel like for that alone, I do have kind of a respect for this movie. Like you don't, there's not a lot of times where you see a movie that has so much involvement from the director, slash main star slash kind of any one of those sort of creative positions there. But it's it's one of those movies that it kind of markets itself like sort of like a prestige picture, Oscar-winning drama, I guess you could say. But the execution is really what made people coming back to this movie. Like it could have just got kind of lost within the winds of time and everything. But this movie is just like, I'm just gonna play you the trailer. Like you have to see this to believe it. It's unbelievable. All right, here we go.
These are for you.
Thanks, honey. They're beautiful.
A Perfect Life.
I would do anything for my girl.
I love you, Lisa.
I love you, Johnny.
He provides for you. Darling, you can't support yourself.
I don't love him anymore. He didn't get his promotion, and he got drunk last night, and he hit me.
It's not true. I did not hit her. Well, maybe you should have a girl, Mark. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I have one already. I don't know yet. We can't do this anymore. Johnny's my best friend. This will be our secret.
Don't worry. You can trust me.
We are expecting.
I'm your future husband.
You sure about that?
Please talk to me, please.
You're having an affair with Lisa, aren't you?
I need more from life than what Johnny can give me.
She's a sociopath. She can't love anyone.
There is no baby. I told him that to make it interesting.
She's such a manipulative witch.
You're hurting yourself. You're hurting our friendship.
I treat you like a princess, and you stab me in the back.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa.
Hey, Danny.
Where's my money, Danny?
Put the gun down.
What the hell is wrong with you? Just shut up.
What? Hey! I'm fed up with this world.
The Room, a film with the passion of Tennessee Williams, directed by Tommy Wiseau. The best movie of the year. Experience this quirky new black comedy. It's a riot.
So they
Oh,
marketed
man.
it.
Oh man. Oh.
I can't. I really can't. This is like unbelievable. Just oh my god. Just
Wow.
yeah, like I feel like that trailer just summed it up. But like you have to see the whole movie from beginning to end just to like really get like just it's just wow. Yeah, it's just one of the most like very fascinatingly odd movies I've seen. But and it's funny because I actually ended up going to the theater for this. Like I saw this movie a couple times and I actually met the two stars. So I met Tommy Wiseau and I met Greg Sesteros, who both played the two leading male actors in the movie. And
Oh, cool.
I'll say they're actually both really nice guys. I had such a great time actually talking with them, and it's really worth it if you go to one of those midnight screenings and you actually get to talk to one of those stars. like it just made my whole night. Like I loved it. It was just such a great experience, and just hearing some of the stories that they had to say about making the movie, it was great. Like oh my god, I loved it. It was, yeah, it's just one of those movies. Like you just have to see it for yourself. Don't expect like an actual drama. Just go in and just go with the movie. Like that's I feel like the best approach you can do with it. So
Because it looks like super intense, but it may not end up to be as intense as it actually looks. So yeah,
no,
exactly. So it does. I mean, the trailer makes you want to go see it, which makes total sense. But
yeah.
it just it has this like, wait a minute, what? What? It has that like, but I think what it comes down to is, Kyle, is that a lot of these movies have that, you're 20 minutes in, you've been
Mhm.
watching these movies for a while, you're watching this a movie, Repo Man or The Room or whatever for a while, and you're like, wait a minute, what just happened? What?
Right? You're just
How
like,
did how did that how did he get from here to here?
yeah,
Like in 3 seconds? That doesn't make any sense. And actually
exactly.
how they did it. How did they put this all together and that kind of thing? One of the things that they brought up about Repo Man is that when you watch the movie, it
Mhm.
doesn't look like a low budget movie. The critics actually said they were surprised that when they heard of how much it actually costs to make it,
Yeah.
they were like, I mean, there's a chase scene in it. There's all kinds of like, and you saw the clip
Yeah, it
that
looks
we had.
cool.
Yeah, and you'd be like, wait a minute, this has got to be a mainstream movie. This is
Yeah,
no way that this was only $1.5 million to make. But yeah, it
like,
was only $1.5 million to make. So it's just some of these will kind of catch you off guard, and that's what these cult classic movies do. Is that there is a whole bunch of people out there, including Kyle and I, who actually really like these movies a lot and actually love some of them. And even if they're stupid and crazy and whacked out beyond belief, you're like saying to yourself, this is actually a pretty cool movie. I
yeah,
watched Scavenger Hunt, and again, it's really long, so you have to kind of get into it.
yeah,
There
yeah.
is an edited. I did find out there is an edited. They edited like 20 minutes out of it. If you
Oh,
find the edited one, that's fine too.
mhm.
Yeah, there is one that
Interesting.
they edited like 20 minutes out of the film because they
Oh,
know
so
how
like
long it
a
is. So
okay.
yeah, so there's two versions. It's a long. I would suggest just watching the whole version.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an extra 20 minutes you have to watch, but it's just the way they put things together. I will tell you an example. The first scene is Vincent Price, Mr. Parker. Remember, I didn't forget that. Mr. Parker, um, bringing up, um, he's actually in his bedroom and he's playing a video game like with this makeshift joystick, and it's like this big wall and it's up in the wall, and it's this little, it likes its little grooves, and this little character goes through the grooves. It needs to get somewhere. If it goes to the swamp, it dies, and then there's little lights that go on and say die, die, die. And if you have to get yourself, so the nurse always wins and he always loses, which is so funny. They play the game a couple of times, but that's the
Yeah.
first scene in the movie, and you're like, "What is this movie about?
Look what's going
What
on.
is what is going on here?" So you want to turn it off,
Yeah.
but then again, you sit there and you say, "Wait a minute, I really don't want to turn this off. I want to see
You just can't
what's
look away. It's like
yeah, I want to see what's next. I mean, what happens?
Mhm.
I mean, what does he do?" And I'm not going to tell you what happens next because that'll,
Yeah,
I
you can't
won't
spoil
have
the fun.
movie. You don't have to watch the movie. I don't want to do any spoiler alerts as much as I can. But again, it's just wild. You
Mhm.
sit there and you're like, wait, what just happened? The first scene in Repo Man is this guy in the car, and he gets stopped by a policeman.
Mhm.
Okay, and the policeman comes over and says, "Can I see?" your license and blah blah blah. And he doesn't give it to him. He doesn't even roll down his window. The guy's just talking to himself in the car in the '64 Malibu. So the
Mhm.
guy says, "Hey, what's in your trunk?" The guy goes back to the trunk. He opens the trunk, and I'm not going to tell you what happens next, but it's like,
Oof,
holy
suspense.
crap! You're like looking like, what just happened? And then the guy just drives away, and all you see,
I love
I'm
that,
not going
just
to say,
keeping the vagueness.
you see the boots.
Oh.
You see boots. That's all you see as he drives away. And then you're like, wait a minute, what is this movie about? This is what I'm talking about. When you talk
Nice.
about a cult classic movie, talking about a movie that is out of the mainstream, that wasn't, it's only popular with a certain group. And then when you watch it, you're like, what the heck?
Like,
What is this? Yeah, it's like your brain. And after seeing Scavenger Hunt, seeing the first hour and a half, and that now you have at least another, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes left. You're like, what else could happen? Happen here? And all of a sudden something
yeah,
happens, and you're like, oh my God, there it is. Um, the Milton
nice.
Parker thing, Milton Parker. Okay, so I think they got that from two makers, two first names of a first name and a last name of companies or names of guys that have made board games. Milton
Mhm.
Parker. So it's Milton Bradley
Oh, yeah, yeah, like, okay.
and I think that isn't it Parker Brothers?
Yes, yes, oh my god, yeah, that's a good yeah, good catch.
There it is. There it is. So his name, the guy that makes these board games, his name is Milton Parker. Okay, this is exactly a cult classic name. This is
That's awesome.
exactly how they figured it out. They sat in a room and they figured out, hey, let's put these two names together. That's what it is. But again, that's what makes it fun. I think we're
Yeah,
trying to say about these cult classic movies is that they're fun.
yes,
They're crazy.
100%.
They're um
They're creative, like, they think
they're
outside of the box
creative.
a lot.
Yes, 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 absolutely. The way they film certain things is
Mhm.
sometimes not the mainstream filming way.
Well,
Um,
actually, yeah, to your point there, like that's one of the things
yeah,
I love about Evil Dead because Evil Dead, so when like, when Ash, Williams opens up the Book of the Dead and all the spirits are kind of like let loose around the cabin and everything, one of the coolest camera tricks I think in cinema that they've ever done, and it's actually transcended to like more modern movies too, um, is they use like this really great first person handheld camera, and it's from the view of the spirits like heading right to the house and stuff like that, and that's one of the coolest like camera tricks I've seen in a movie, like, and it's so it influenced, I feel like, a lot of other kind of horror and other even genre type movies, so yeah.
it's it's just a different animal. It's
Yeah.
not mainstream. It's a totally different animal. I personally would suggest that anybody, just look up cult classics. Take the four movies that we talked about and go see them. Um,
Hmm.
Start a cult classic collection of
Yes.
movies. I have a friend that's we used to live up in New Hampshire. I have a friend that's up in New Hampshire. Um, and he's a big supporter of our show, and he's the one that gave me this movie. He has a ton of non-mainstream movies. He loves those. He totally loves those.
Yeah.
um and it's just a different way of watching movies. That's really all it is. It's just a different way of watching them. And again, yeah, they get crazy, they get nuts, but it's just so amazing the way they can put a movie together for $1.7 million or $1.5 million, and it's out there, and it has all these like stars in it. And did they know that it was going to be a cult classic? Probably not at the time, but
Nope.
still. I mean, these are people that are out there actually making movies. Like Scatman Crothers made The Shining, I think, right after this movie, because The Shining came out in 1980.
Mhm.
So and this came out in 79. It was just unbelievable. By the way, you got to watch Scatman Crothers in this movie because he's got something really cool at the end that happens. I'm not going to tell you what happens, but it's something really, it's like, oh my god, I can't believe Scatman Crothers just did that.
Yeah.
So it's just wild. These movies are just wild, Kyle. They're just incredible.
Totally, totally. Yeah, no, no, I agree. Like yeah, they're just great. Like I feel like I have a whole collection, especially from like I love some of like the more foreign like kind of more cult classics too, like Ringu and like maybe they were like big hits in other countries, but they also were kind of like maybe here they were more kind of like they found their sort of niche audience. So there's just like yeah, you can find a
Right.
cult classic almost anywhere at this point. So yeah.
Right, absolutely. I think one of the first ones that was out there was probably Rocky Horror Picture Show, is
Oh
what I
yeah,
think. Yeah, and I was gonna do
yeah.
that, but it's very, very popular. I wanted to bring up, some movies that
It's
may not have been
transcended
as
past its
popular.
cult status.
It absolutely, and I think when they made the movie, a lot of the Rocky Horror, they have a live show. So when you go see the live show, it's
Mhm.
interactive and stuff like that.
Yep.
And when if you talk to a person that has seen the 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 people who love Rocky Horror Live do not like the movie at all. They just don't like it. They like there's nothing like going to see Rocky Horror Live.
Oh,
They just
interesting.
do not like the movie at all. The movie just kind of transcends everything else. It's pretty much like it's kind of it shows you like it is one of their shows that they
Yeah.
do live. But they just made it into a movie and they thought it was going to be popular. A lot of people have seen it, but that's probably, I mean, that's probably top five of the cult classics because people just love Rocky Horror. They just do.
Yeah. That was the original midnight movie to go to, so yeah.
Right, right, exactly, exactly. But again, that's what it said in the description too. These are the some of these cult classics were the midnight type movie that you went to that was not going to be popular with mainstream whatever, and you went to it at midnight and you just went and that was it. You're like, hey, I just did this. This is really cool.
Yeah.
So that's kind of I think they're fun, they're exciting, and they're different. They're different
Yes.
than, the mainstream Top Gun, Avatar, Marvel, whatever's out there that you see in the mainstream.
Yeah.
I think what Kyle and I are trying to say, at least I'm trying to say also with Kyle, is that these movies are a genre you should not forget about. That's
Oh,
what we're
100%, yeah.
trying to,
They're
yeah. And
they're
I think
just
some of them are underappreciated. I think they really are.
Oh, yeah. No, I totally agree, yeah. Was there any other movie that you, wanted to go over, or
I don't I don't think so. Did I say that there was a third in our we did a pregame, so I'm trying to make sure because if there was a third there, then that's fine. Do you have do you
Um,
have another one, Kyle, or
I didn't wanna, like, talk too much over the time, I we can always
yeah,
save
yeah,
them
no, that's
too
fine.
for, like, another
Yeah, yeah,
episode
we
if
we
you
could
want
have
to do so.
believe me, these are 4 out of hundreds of movies, and we should make it into a something that we do a lot more with bring up 4 new movies, not maybe not new, but
Yeah.
4 other cult classics. So we'll definitely have another episode that has classics attached to it. But no, I don't have any more right now. I could talk about 40 more, but I'm sure that
Yeah.
that people want to try to power down a little bit after our show. So
Yeah, no, and I like I agree. Like I think we'll definitely get some others, and I know I mentioned earlier too. I had some like TV shows and video games that might take a little longer to talk about, but we've got there's so many great. I'll show you just guys like a quick montage of some other cult movies, but also video games and shows that like really kind of transcended through just I feel like just kind of like went they're just like really fantastic. Why is this one not working? Oh wow. That's really unprofessional of me. Sorry about that. Whoops.
Wow,
Okay, well, I guess
it's a cool black screen though, so we can talk
I
right
guess
through the
so.
black screen.
I'll just add
Oh,
this
there
one
it
then, I
is.
guess.
There it
There
is.
we go. Oh, no, wait, that's
Awesome,
not even the right
awesome.
one. That's wow, I'm, like, really, messing this one up, guys.
Well,
Whoopsies.
hey, listen. This is a new format for us, but we're cooking with gas, so you never know.
Yeah, we're still working on it, but yeah. So there's just so many other great, like cult classic, not even just in movies, but in TV shows, and also, believe it or not just in shows, like like shows like Firefly, and even like I guess you could consider Star Trek kind of a cult classic, but also video
Mm.
games. Video games, I feel like, are just like they really have transcended through into the cult classic genre. So honestly, you know what? You're right. You know what? I think this is we could definitely kind of save this for maybe like another episode in the future. So
Absolutely,
there's
but
just a lot we
again,
could do. So
yeah, there's so much to talk about. There's so much to talk about. Not enough time. If we had a 4-hour show, we could probably get to a lot of it, but we really don't. we're
yeah.
not we're not planning on that. So it's one of those things where we could definitely do another episode down the road. I think what we're trying to portray out there is that the mainstream is good. It's good.
Yeah.
It's valuable, but try to take yourself out of that mainstream and go and pick up a movie that you may not have seen before. One of the four that we talked about.
Yeah,
Um,
off the beaten path, or just
something off the beaten path,
one of your
something that
friends
doesn't
talked
cost
about.
a lot of money to make. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Go and see those movies because those movies are really fun. They will you will be very surprised at what they're made of, and you'll be surprised and you'll be like, wow, this is really cool. So that's kind of what we're trying to we're trying to portray here.
Yes, no, totally agree. Well said. I really had a great time tonight talking about all these just
This is
different
fun, man.
cult classics. Like, this is definitely something we're going to revisit in the future. I hope you guys are excited as we are about this subject. And, if you guys wanted to kind of mention the I said comics, wow, comments.
It's
You guys
okay, I
wanted to
talked about
mention the
comic books, so it's in your brain, so I get it.
it is, yeah. The comics or comments, whatever suits your fancy.
Yeah, please send
Whether
please send Kyle comics. Okay, he
oh
loves
yeah,
them.
send me
Send
more,
them to him.
especially like
Yeah,
Kingdom
send me.
Come, Injustice.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. All that stuff, yeah. Of course.
But yeah, let us know what your favorite cult classic movies, TV shows, even games are. We would love to open that discussion. Maybe even we can use some of those to talk about, for the next episode that we do on this subject. And
Mm.
yeah, I think that's about all I have tonight. Was there anything else you wanted to mention before we sign off?
Not really. Just wanted to mention our sponsors are scrolling down,
Oh yeah,
as you
just
can see on our
going left.
screen. So
Put it
our
this way.
sponsors, Zyman Organizing and Wes Woodson, thank you so much for sponsoring our show. That's right. Again, we're continuing to try to make this show better and better, working on new things and new subjects and themes and guests and all kinds of things that we can do to try to make the show better. We are live on YouTube right this very second, but we do record it. So if you couldn't see the episode, no problem at all. Please go to Screen Time with Doug and Kyle, and you can go right there. And you can, if you subscribe and hit the bell, what'll happen is that you'll get as soon as we go live on one of our shows, you will get a notification that we're about to go live about a half an hour before the show starts.
Yeah.
So it's very, very cool, and it's a great way of doing it. We're also on, other social medias that we're going to try to get on to, Facebook, Instagram. I believe, I'm not sure we're on Anchor yet, but we're working on that too. I think
Working
we're
on it,
working on
yeah.
Anchor. Yeah, we're working on Anchor. And of course, we're on YouTube. And again, subscribe and hit the bell. And if you have any subjects that you want us to talk about, we talk about movies, TV, and video games. So if you want any subject that you want us to talk about, please don't hesitate to put it right in the comments. And we'll have links to our sponsors, obviously in our description. And that's all I got. That's all I got. It was fun. It was great.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Kyle. It was awesome. And we'll look forward to our next show.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, thank you guys so much for the people that stopped by and listened. We hope you have a wonderful night, and we will see you next time on our next episode of Screen Time. Have a good night, guys.
Good night.